Peter Kane had stopped looking people in the eyes 3 years ago. Not after what happened on Kepler 442b. Not after he'd given the evacuation order that saved 2,000 colonists but left 47 behind. Not after he'd watched the atmospheric processors fail through the viewport of his escape shuttle, knowing exactly how long those 47 had left to breathe when the Zithraki widow stood in his doorway on Station Artemis 9, her forearms clutching a data slate with cleaning credentials. He looked at her forehead instead. Somewhere above her 3 orbital eyes, but below the crest of bioluminescent scales that marked her as a female of her species. The position pays standard rate, Peter said flatly. Twice weekly. No personal questions. Acceptable, the widow, S.H. Vera, replied in clicking, translated galactic common. I work well. I have daughter. She comes sometimes. This problem. Peter's jaw tightened. He didn't want anyone's daughter around. Didn't want to see youth or hope or any of those things he'd incinerated in Kepler's failing atmosphere. But the apartment was a disaster, and S.H. Vera's rates were half what the corporate services charged. Fine. Just keep her out of my office. The arrangement worked for 3 weeks. S.H. Vera was efficient, quiet, and mercifully uninterested in small talk. She cleaned around Peter like he was just another piece of furniture, which was exactly how he felt most days. Then came the day S.H. Vera brought Tiana. Peter was reviewing supply manifests when he heard the small voice. What this? He looked up to find a young Zithraki, maybe 7 in Earth years, standing in his office doorway despite his explicit instructions. She was pointing at the framed photograph on his shelf, the one he should have packed away years ago. Tiana. S.H. Vera rushed in, all 4 arms reaching for her daughter. Apologies, Mr. Kane. She wanders. Come, little star. It's nothing, Peter said coldly, standing to leave. Just an old photo. I'll be in the observation deck. But as he moved past them, Tiana looked up at him. Really looked. Her 3 eyes, 2 large primaries and 1 smaller orbital, fixed on his face with an intensity that made him freeze. They were copper-colored, like burnished metal, and they held something he hadn't seen directed at him in years. Not fear. Not judgment. Just curiosity. And concern. You sad? Tiana said simply. Why you sad? Peter's throat constricted. I'm not. I have to go. He fled to the observation deck and didn't return until S.H. Vera messaged him that they'd left. The next week, Tiana was there again. This time she'd drawn a picture, the four-armed Zithraki equivalent of crayon art. It showed 2 stick figures under a star. She pressed it into Peter's hand before he could protest. For you? She said. So you smile. Peter stared at the crude drawing. The figures were holding hands. Or trying to. The proportions were all wrong. Thank you, he managed. But I don't need. Everyone needs smile. Tiana interrupted with the absolute certainty of childhood. Mama say you helped many people before. Heroes need smile too. Heroes. The word hit him like a plasma bolt. I'm not a hero, Peter said, his voice cracking. Heroes don't leave people behind. Tiana tilted her head, her scales shifting through confused colors. You save people? Ah, yes. Some. Then you hero. Papa was hero too. He saved me and Mama. But he not come home. Her eyes, those damn copper eyes, filled with something Peter recognized. Grief. Old grief. Worn smooth by time, but never quite gone. You come home. That good. That make you lucky hero. Peter sank into his chair. For 3 years, he'd run the math 1,000 times. 47 lost versus 2,000 saved. A clear utilitarian victory. But he'd never felt lucky. He'd felt like a coward who got to live because he made the call from a ship instead of staying on the ground. Your father, Peter said quietly. He made a choice? Tiana nodded. Ship was breaking. He pushed us in pod. He stay fix engine so we could go. She said it matter-of-factly, the way children speak of terrible things they don't fully comprehend yet. Mama say he love us more than stars. Peter's hands were shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Why you sorry? You not break our ship. No, I. Peter looked at this child who had lost everything but could still draw pictures to make strangers smile. I left people behind once. People I was supposed to protect. And I've been telling myself I was a monster ever since. Tiana climbed onto the chair across from him. Mama say hard choices not make you monster. Make you person who has to live with hard choices. Monsters don't feel sad. You feel sad. So you not monster. From the doorway, SH Vera watched quietly. When she spoke, her voice was gentle. Tiana speaks truth, Mr. Kane. I have watched you 3 weeks. You punish yourself. Every day, living like ghost. She moved closer, her scales shifting to compassionate blues. My mate made choice, so we live. You made choice, so thousands live. These choices, they cost everything. But they not wrong. Peter felt something crack open in his chest. Something that had been frozen since the day he'd watched Kepler 442b's atmosphere turn toxic through that viewport. Hot tears burned his eyes, the first he'd shed since the incident. I should have found another way, he whispered. Perhaps, SH Vera said. Or perhaps you save only number possible to save. Zithraki have saying. The weight of the save does not erase the weight of the lost, but it is weight nonetheless. Carry both, or carry neither. Tiana slipped off her chair and approached Peter. Without hesitation, she wrapped her small forearms around him in the Zithraki gesture of comfort, a sensation like being embraced by warm, scaled silk. You carry, she said simply. We help you carry. Peter broke. 3 years of guilt and self-recrimination poured out in ragged sobs, while an alien child held him and her mother stood witness. When he finally surfaced, gasping, he found himself looking directly into Tiana's copper eyes, not avoiding them, not looking away. And in those eyes, the eyes of someone who understood loss but chose hope anyway. Peter saw something he thought he'd lost on Kepler 442b. He saw a future where maybe, just maybe, he could forgive himself. Thank you, he whispered to Tiana, for the picture, and for this. Tiana beamed, her scales flashing brilliant golds. You welcome. Next week I bring more pictures. We put everywhere. Make home happy again. As Isagara guided her daughter toward the door, Peter looked at the crude drawing still clutched in his hand. 2 figures under a star. He stood and walked to his desk, placing it in a frame beside the photograph he'd been unable to pack away. The photo of his crew on Kepler 442b. All 47 of them smiling. For the first time in 3 years, Peter smiled back, and somewhere in the depths of space, he thought perhaps the dead might finally forgive him, because he was learning to forgive himself.